$29.85. That's the toll balance. Now look at this. $650. Those are the admin fees attached to it. $29.85. 650 admin fees. How the hell does that happen? I'm Lone Wolf, Nico. And instead of just getting pissed off about it, I started doing some digging. Because after I challenged what was happening with my E-ZPass account, I received a response from the New Jersey management team over at the NJTA. My account was revoked. I was told to return my transponder. I was told I could only use the lanes marked full service cash. I was also told to make sure that I had bills and coins in my possession. And if I didn't have cash, I was told, do not enter the toll road. Use a non-toll road instead, even if it takes 2 to 3 hours longer, like going to New York, for example. Think about that for a second. In 2026, this is New Jersey. We're sitting on the middle of the busiest transportation corridors in America. And I'm being told, carry bills, carry coins, or take another road? So instead of just getting angry about it, I started investigating. And guess what I found? My $650 problem, it was a much bigger question. Now, before anybody says anything, well, you should have paid your tolls. You're right. You should. And so should I. I'm not disputing legitimate tolls. In fact, before this investigation ever existed, I put that in writing in an email to the executives at NJTA. My exact words were, I do not dispute that amount. And I'm prepared to pay it immediately. I wasn't asking for free tolls. I was trying to resolve the account. I experienced electronic payment problems. I repeatedly contacted customer service. I experienced longer than 1 hour telephone waits. And because I'm a disabled veteran with PTSD, anxiety, I also raised those concerns about accessibility and specifically requested an individualized review and, where appropriate, reasonable accommodation. I'm not allowed to ask. Then NJTA investigated my case. And here's where being fair matters. I had believed there was an intermittent problem involving my transponder and heated windshield. I drive a lifted F-150 truck, a lot higher than normal cars. But NJTA says I'm wrong. According to their investigation, the transponder was detected each time. And even if it wasn't, it could go off my license plate. I accept that. They say the violation happened because the account was insufficiently funded. Okay, that's two separate issues. Now that's their position, and they have a right to their position. I'm not going to hide the part that doesn't help my argument, because this isn't about winning an argument. It's about finding out how the system works. So for the sake of this investigation, let's accept NJTA's explanation. The account didn't have enough money. That's fine. Now, explain what happened next. The response identifies one of my accounts. Say one of my accounts. with $18.80 in unpaid tolls and $130 in admin fees. Now, to give them credit, NJTA agreed to dismiss the entire $130 as long as I paid the $18.80 in unpaid tolls, which I never was trying to avoid in the first place. If the system was set up to win, not fail. Then came another violation account. I'm like, $29.85 in unpaid tolls and $650 in admin fees. Let me say that one more time because it blew me away. $29.85 in tolls in a separate account. Bear in mind, I've only ever had one because I've only ever paid one account. $650 in fees. The admin fees were almost 22 times the underlying toll balance. I mean, I wasn't good at maths. That seems a little high. NJTA offered to reduce that. What kind of them? The $650 admin fees to $450. I mean, that's a reduction. But even then, $450 is still roughly 15 times the toll balance initially. That's when I stopped looking at this as how do I fix my E-ZPass and started asking, how does the system allow this to happen in the first place? And here's part of the answer. New Jersey regulations authorize an administrative fee of up to $50. But here's the important part. It's not $50 for the whole account. It's per violation. So imagine for a minute. You're on the Garden State Parkway. You come off at Bloomfield. You missed your turn. So you get back on. Keep going, come off again because you need gas, get back on. You get off in Bergen County. You drop your kids off, turn around, get back on. Because either way, you're going to pay a toll. It hits again. It's not $50 for the account of all of those violations. It's per violation. So imagine a small toll, $1, $1.75, then another $3 toll, $50 admin fee. You go for another toll, add another $50 fee, another $50 fee, keep going. The tolls themselves might remain relatively small, but those admin fees start stacking. And suddenly, you're not arguing about tolls anymore. You're arguing about hundreds or sometimes thousands of dollars in admin fees. But NJTA has an argument. And this is something I didn't expect when starting researching this subject. People have already challenged that $50 fee in court. And to their credit, NJTA won. Surprising, huh? With the amount of money that they make. The case was Long versus New Jersey Turnpike Authority. No relation to me. The argument was essentially this. Does it really cost $50 to process a toll violation? And NJTA said, we're all looking at this through narrow glasses. According to the authority, processing and collecting violation involves far more than just printing an envelope. Customer service. From my experience, and I don't know, tell me in the comments your experiences, I don't even think customer service should even be on their list of things that they supposedly use the money for. Because they don't have any customer service. Not that I've dealt with. Technology. You don't have technology. If people are struggling to make payments, If you're having to call us back from a separate phone line in 2026, your technology sucks too. Toll equipment, I can't comment. Maintenance, from what I've seen on the roads, the turnpike or the parkway, there is no maintenance. So maybe they're talking about their coffee makers in the offices. Fiber infrastructure, personnel, transponders. See, this one got me as well. You send some money in when you open your account to pay for the transponder, and if you need another one, you pay again. So where's my toll violation money going to buy transponders when that sounds like a double dip? Money lost on violations, never successfully collected. Okay, so what's that got to do with me? After years of litigation, the court accepted, probably because they bored them to death, NJTA's cost methodology and upheld the fee. So, NJTA, this is important, because if I'm going to investigate them, you deserve their strongest argument too. But here's what one court victory doesn't make disappear. $29.85 became $650. Because even if we accept that processing one violation costs $50, what happens when that fee gets multiplied over and over against relatively small tolls? And what point does the consequences become disproportionate to the original debt? Apparently, some people in Trenton have been wondering the same thing. Because in May of 2026, legislation was introduced in the great state of New Jersey Assembly. Assembly Bill 4872. And here's how we know people in Trenton apparently do have a sense of humor, because they weren't subtle about it. And guess what they called it? The End the Toll Trap Act. That's the actual bill name. And then I started reading its findings. Between July 2020, July 2025, New Jersey motorists incurred more than 7 million toll violations. 7 million. But the next part blew me even more. According to the legislation, the median violator received just 2 violation notices. The average was fewer than 4. So think about that. Okay, there's times where you've been through a toll, you know, because it says contact customer service, but you're not going to pull over at the side of the road to fix it there and then. You forget about it. Then all of a sudden, a week goes by, 2 or 3. Then in the mail comes 2 white envelopes and an orange one, all together, same day. The orange one saying, oh, we got $50 on now. But those same 2 white letters came the same day. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And legislation says those numbers demonstrate that most affected motorists are not chronic offenders, but ordinary motorists, like I explained. And that's where this story stops being about me. Because what does an ordinary motorist actually look like? Someone's card expires. Someone's automatic replenishment doesn't keep going to add up. Someone misses a notice. Someone changes banks and don't notify E-ZPass. Someone's paycheck's late that week. Someone loses a job. Someone just gets sick. Or someone makes a mistake. And let's be very clear. A mistake doesn't erase that toll, so just pay it. But should a mistake involving a few dollars be capable of becoming hundreds of dollars? Now that's a completely different question. And once you're asking that question, you have to follow the money. NJTA's financial reporting for 2024 shows approximately $161.4 million in total E-ZPass fee revenue. $161 million. That's a number that's
even difficult to comprehend. So let's put it into perspective for people. That's approximately $442,000 every single day. More than $18,000 every hour. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and roughly speaking, it's about $18 for every man, woman, and child living in the state of New Jersey. Now listen carefully, because accuracy matters. That entire 161.4 million is not solely administrative violation. And I'm not looking for clout, and I'm not looking for clicks. I'm honest when I have the real facts. The category includes other E-ZPass related fees and income. And I'm not going to stand here and manipulate a huge number just because it makes better clickbait or headlines. But NJTA's own financial reporting says the result exceeded budgets primarily because of increased admin fees and interest income, among other increases. And that leaves us with a question I think every New Jersey driver deserves to be answered. How much of that $161.4 million came specifically from admin violation fees? Because if we're talking about $50 admin fees that can stack again and again and again until $29.85 in tolls becomes $650 in fees, then show us the number. How much money does NJTA collect specifically from violation admin fees? How has that changed year over year? And how much does processing violations actually cost today with AI? How much gets waived? How much gets collected? And how much remains outstanding? Because if these are true administrative costs, the public should be able to see the admin behind it. You don't think? Now listen, I'm not anti-government. I'm a veteran. That's basically accountability 101. And while investigating the system, I found something else E-ZPass customers should understand. Because this, on its own, is alarming. New Jersey E-ZPass promotes automatic replenishment as a way to maintain your account balance. That sounds great. And it sounds like common sense, to be honest with you. But here's the red flag danger. But it publishes information that says systems periodically review your usage and your replenishment amount can be changed automatically based on that usage. So I'm going to give you an example because it makes no common sense if you just read that. They're basically saying you have set your amount to $20 because you barely, use your account, maybe once or twice a month. Your grandmother gets sick. Now you're driving back and forth to the hospital, 7-8 miles away. On the parkway, on and off. Now, because you've done that daily, the system picks up on that. And now, the next time it replenishes your account is $100 missing, not 20. Now, their fact sheet says this, that process, and you will not be notified. Not be notified? The agreement appears on your later E-ZPass statements. Think about that for a minute. Where does anywhere else on this planet get to do this? Your usage changes. The system recalculates it. And according to E-ZPass's own fact sheets, you aren't separately notified when the automated adjustment occurs. Now, E-ZPass can reasonably say you agree to those terms when you opened the account. Fine and dandy. Then here's the consumer question. How many people actually understand that? How clearly is that explained when somebody enrolls? Because when a system has access to automatically replenish people's accounts and can also generate $50 admin fees when an account becomes insufficiently funded, customers deserve to understand how exactly both sides of the system operate. And this brings me back to the response that started this whole situation. My account was revoked. I was instructed to return the transponder, avoid E-ZPass and high-speed E-ZPass lanes, use full-service cash lanes, carry wads of cash and mountains of coins in my cup holders, because without cash, I was told, do not enter the toll road. Use a non-toll road. All right, so my kids live in Yonkers, New York. Genius. How am I getting into New York without going all the way round upstate New York and back down? Probably 2-3 hours adding on to my route. Because you can't get it together. Maybe that's perfectly consistent with NJ policy. And if it is, show me the policy. Explain how it's supposed to work in practice. Explain what options exist for someone whose account has been revoked. Because this isn't some luxury VIP service you're offering. These roads connect people's lives, people's jobs, families, hospitals, businesses, New Jersey, New York, upstate, the entire Northeast corridor. And there's another reason I'm asking this. Before receiving the response, I specifically raised my disability, PTSD, and anxiety. I'm not escaping paying tolls. My original email literally says the opposite. I raised it because prolonged telephone queues and complicated resolution procedures, that's me being polite with people being rude to me on the phone, or a genuine accessibility problem for people with PTSD, anxiety, and disabilities. I specifically requested individualized review and where appropriate, reasonable accommodation. Now listen carefully. I'm not declaring that NJTA discriminated against me. I'm not declaring they violated the ADA. Those are legal conclusions requiring evidence. I am merely asking a question. NJTA is a public entity. So when a disabled customer explicitly says, this process is creating an access barrier for me, what happens? Is there a dedicated accommodation process? And who reviews it? What alternatives are offered? And how quickly, and most importantly, does the person actually know those alternatives exist? Because this isn't only about veterans. It's the elderly, people with physical disabilities, people with cognitive disabilities, people with mental health disabilities, and ordinary families dealing with more bureaucracy than they can handle. Government systems don't only need to work for people who are good at navigating government systems. So let's make sure this investigation isn't misunderstood. I'm not calling for elimination of tolls. I'm not saying people should ignore E-ZPass notices. I'm not saying deliberate toll evaders shouldn't face the full wrath of the law. Pay what you owe, but accountability works both ways. If a public has to account for every dollar it owes the government sure as hell should be prepared to account for every dollar it charges the public. So here's what Lone Wolf wants answers to. Proportionality. Should repeated $50 admin assessments be capable of turning relatively small toll balances into $100? Transparency. Exactly how much admin fees revenue is being collected. Prevention. Can customers be warned sooner before relatively small account problems become major violation balances? Accessibility. What actually happens after a disabled customer asks for a reasonable accommodation? And most importantly, reform. Why did New Jersey lawmakers decide legislation was necessary in the first place? What would the End the Toll Trap Act actually change? Who supports it? Who opposes it, and why? Most people get one of those letters, you know, the white one or the orange one that all come together in one day's mail. Most people get pissed off. Maybe make an hour-long phone call. They pay what they can to those toll fees. Lone Wolf advocacy is here for. Not to manufacture outrage, not to attack some customer service employee, not to scream corruption because it sounds good on a thumbnail or a soundbite, but to ask the questions nobody else is asking and keep asking them until somebody gives the public an answer. So New Jersey Turnpike Authority, we're giving you the opportunity to respond. How did $29.85 in tolls generate $650 in admin fees? Because if this is happening repeatedly to ordinary motorists, then this story is bigger than one E-ZPass account. And we follow it wherever the evidence takes us. $29.85, $650. Those numbers started this investigation, but they don't finish it. Because sometimes accountability begins with somebody looking at somebody else, what they've learned to accept, and asking why. Not because we're looking for a fight, because somebody has to be willing to make some noise. NJTA, the microphone is yours. Explain it. This is Lone Wolf Investigates, and this investigation continues. Stay strong, stay humble, and more importantly, God bless.